we are less than 30 days away from one of the things I thought I would never announce, the Common Cause 1-year anniversary. This coming November 9th at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, you have your opportunity to win some of the greatest prizes, all while contributing to a phenomenal cause, the Purple Hearts Home. This is going to be the biggest event for Pauper Commander. I'm going to do the absolute insane amount of prizes for everyone, so make sure you register at omgmtg.com. Links going live. Make sure you register. I will see you there.
All right, you guys. Welcome back to another episode of The Common Theory. Yes, the #1 CPDH podcast. And as always, I'm your host, Gator, along with my man, Kunx. But today, we actually have a very special guest with us today. And they are a community member that has been with us for quite a while, has put up some amazing results, and has a very special deck that we really would like to introduce to you guys. And of course, who's better than to introduce the deck that they have specifically been playing, but the deck builder themselves. So you know how we are, you know what we're going to do, and we're going to reach out and we're going to get them. We're going to bring them here, talk about their deck, plain and simple. But with that said, we got to do our quick little introductions, you guys. As always, Franklin, how you been doing, bro? You alive? You hanging in there? Not too bad.
Yeah, doing pretty good. This week's been a pretty good week. Nothing super eventful. Vegas is starting up. I wish I was able to go, but life happens. But it's all right. We'll probably save up and go up to Atlanta next year for MagicCon Atlanta. I'm just happy there's something on the East Coast at the end of the year.
Yeah, very fair.
Yeah. So, Gator, how have you been?
Dude, I haven't been. I finally put my big boy pants on, and I figured out an issue that I had with the house. I had a huge electrical storm happen, and I truly got to the end of that road. Long, overwhelming story. It was causing me not even actually to sleep at night because, I was afraid my house was going to burn down at a point, as weird as that is. But with that said, it worked out. I'm feeling great now. I'm actually sleeping at night. Hell of an improvement.
Yeah.
As horrible as that is.
Yeah, electrical issues are awful.
Well, they're terrifying.
And then the bill's even worse.
Yeah, I don't even want to go there. Don't want to go there. But our guest for you guys today is Hive. And Hive, before you introduce yourself, I mean, how was your week? I know it's kind of a weird question, but your family here with us, and we'd love to know about, making sure you're all right.
I mean, my week's been going pretty well. I had just a lot of classes and things, but I had forget the name of the set. Bloomborough. I did a Bloomborough draft earlier this week. That was a lot of fun. I went 3-0 with a Rakdos, so pretty good. Yeah, it was fun.
Bro, that hard claw that you're talking about, that little one drop rare is crazy.
Playing a mono red 1-drop rare on turn 1.
That pings someone on attack.
It's good.
Pretty nice. Yeah.
Rares are good.
Yep. Well, I mean,
and
now
with
that we have
for the rest, rares are good, and now for the rest of the episode, we're going to talk about commons.
Of course. Yeah.
I mean, if
that's
someone
what
wanted
we're here
to,
for.
If someone wanted to make a
Just
format
the way I
that's
like it.
Pauper, but with rares, they're free to do that.
Of
and then
course.
they can come on this channel and we'll talk about it eventually.
Yep. But with that said, let's move into the introductions. And of course, Hive, please introduce yourself. Let people know who you are, what you've done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm Hive. I've been playing PDH for almost 2 years now, or maybe closer to a year and a half. But I've been playing CPDH for the past year. And for pretty much that entire time, I have been brewing and tweaking and working on just one deck, and that is the deck we're here to talk about. It's Wilson Far Traveler. I've put a lot of work into it. I've put a lot of games into it. I've put up a lot of results with it, and I'm really happy with it. I've gotten a handful of top 4s and some other just finishes I'm happy with. And I'm excited to talk about the deck today.
Fantastic. I mean, I really enjoy hearing that. I mean, the top fours are, congratulations on all your top fours. I believe you have 3 or 4.
Three,
Don't quote
yeah.
me. 3?
Yeah,
Yeah. I
3.
mean, that's fantastic. I mean, to say the least, like, top fours are very impressive. I know a lot of people only care about the winners of the format, but I would highly argue that people should always pay attention to the decks that are in top 4 because it does definitely show what other decks we have in the format that can be viable, especially like a deck like this. Especially you've topped several at this point, so definitely results are
It shows
essentially
the
proven.
pure power and consistency of the deck.
Yeah, exactly, and the player as well, and that's why we have Hive here. But let's get into the meat in the potatoes for this deck. Let's kind of just start hitting the big deals. And of course, guys, this is another exciting episode where I have my notebook and I have very good notes for everyone, and I have my questionnaires. So let's start with the first one. Hive, could you please tell me and you know what? I'm wrong. Let me not pick on you. Let me actually pick on Franklin. Franklin, can you please tell me what the commanders of the deck are and what you believe the commander of it is? I know that's kind of a weird question, but
Yeah,
it has
so
2.
yeah, it's obviously Wilson, Refined Grizzly, and Far Traveler as the background. And with most decks with a background, the background's usually inconsequential and provides like a little minor buff. Like with Gut Leader, the minor buff being the extra +2/+2. And with Abdel, who cares about the background most of the time, unless if it's Abdel Black. But so with this, it seems like it should be Wilson, because Wilson comes out, you suit him up with a whole bunch of auras and just beats the crap out of people.
Seems a little unfair. What are your thoughts on that, Hive?
So this is actually an exception to that. A big point I try to push with this deck is that Wilson is kind of in the background. The background takes the forefront. The point of the deck is to leverage Far Traveler for a huge amount of value, and then Wilson's just kind of here to sit there, protect itself, and eventually give you just the vessel to win the game with. But for most of the game, we're using Far Traveler as our commander.
That's really interesting. So, but is Franklin wrong though, Hive? Like, don't you have to use Wilson to win the game? Essentially,
Eventually, yeah. Eventually, we do have to suit up Wilson, and we win with a big for just Voltron damage.
Okay.
But that's just how we win. But like in the case of like a combo control deck, it's mainly a control deck, and then eventually it just wins with a combo. Here, we're mainly a Far Traveler deck. We're a mid-range deck establishing a value engine, and then eventually we just win with our Voltron commander.
That's really interesting. Well, so that brings me into my next question, Hive. So this is going to be one that I'm really going to pick on you a lot with, but so don't get too bad when I keep poking and prodding at you too much here.
Yeah.
But why this deck? Like, what does this have to offer? Because let's be realistic. If I'm just a random and I look at your deck and I see, and you just told me that Far Traveler is your commander, I'm going to feel very lackluster here with that statement. So why are you going to, like, how are you going to kind of prove to me? I know that might be kind of incorrect to say, but like, sell me on the deck. Like, tell me why I should be happy to tap one creature and do what, right?
Well, first of all, there's some really good Entrance Battlefield triggers. We see that in Abdel decks all the time. Entrance Battlefield triggers repeatedly can be just really good value. There's a lot of creatures that say enter the battlefield and draw a card. And if we can leverage Far Traveler to just draw an extra card every turn, that is a huge amount of value that we constantly get to use at our disposal. It allows us to always hold up interaction and all sorts of things.
Let me interrupt you here real quick, because we have an Abdel player here with us. In fact, one of the best Abdel Blue players in the entire format. And you saying you get to draw one card extra per turn. And Franklin, how many cards can you draw per turn with Abdel? Like 10 sometimes, like some
I mean, if
absurd
you,
amount, right?
I mean, if you get lucky and you go through your Flicker Storm, yeah, but just having the consistent one draw per turn, it beats out just the entire burst of draws.
Really?
Especially
Yeah,
when
that's-
you're drawing out the games.
Okay, that's really interesting.
It's what I like about this deck. It's like an engine deck, whereas with something like Abdel, you're going to need to invest cards. You need to invest flickers to draw your cards. Whereas with this, once you invest the cards to establish your engine, you just draw cards for free. You're just constantly drawing extra cards without having to invest any more, and it allows you to hold up your cards and your mana for interaction and protection until you're ready to make the moves you want to make.
So, but what kind of cards actually do something like that, right? So, once again, treat me like I'm the brand new player of the format, right? So, my first goal is I see a Wilson and I see a Far Traveler. I'm like, oh, I could play Land of War Elf, right? That seems to be like really like contradictory to a deck like this, right? You would never play a Land of War Elf. So, what kind of things would you be actually playing to create this engine? Which I know
Yeah.
you create this amazing engine, but like, tell me how you make this engine and what are you using? Like the only card I could think of is Spirited Companion, right? Everyone plays that card at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're going to play a lot of effects like that. We're going to play creatures, cheap creatures that will enter the battlefield and draw you a card, which is the first piece you need. You need two pieces outside of the command zone to establish the engine. You need something like a Spirit Companion that can draw a card when it enters, and you need some way to get it tapped. Often, we have like 7 ways outside of lands that we can tap that creature for mana, whether that be with a Springleaf Drum, or a mana dork such as a Lone Dryad or Cerulean Caretaker. I'll use Cerulean Caretaker as the example. It's 1 green for a 0/3 defender that can tap itself and another creature you control to add 1 mana of any color. So it can be a mana dork and accelerate our mana, while also tapping our draw creatures to allow us to flicker them with Far Traveler. So once you have a draw creature and a mana dork like that, every turn, without investing more cards, you get to have this draw engine. And there are other ways to get them tapped. It doesn't have to be just with the Caretaker, but combat is obviously the easiest way to get anything tapped. You just put it into the red zone. And if you have a safe attack, then use it. Get your creatures tapped. And it's really all it takes. Just get them tapped somehow. We have a ton of creatures that draw.
That's super interesting because, like, honestly, on the surface, it seems a little bit lackluster. But the more that you're talking about these cards, like, I would never think like a Cerulean Caretaker is going to be something that you're trying to develop an engine. But you said you had 7 pieces outside of that, outside of your lands, which means you essentially have up to 3 play sets of cards that give you the ability to tap something at minimum.
Yeah, I have 7, 9. I have 10 cards that their primary function, or part of their function, is like a big part. I guess a big part of their function is to get creatures tapped. So we've got 4 of those mana dorks that I mentioned that function like Cerulean Caretaker. We've got Springleaf Drum, which is basically like Cerulean Caretaker, but it's just an artifact. We've got Flywheel Racer, which is a vehicle that cruises for 1 and can attack with Vigilance, and then also tap for mana. It costs 2, so it's more expensive than the others, but it can attack for 3 and still tap for mana and get your creatures tapped for Far Traveler. It just does so much.
I mean, that's a really underappreciated card in this format, in my opinion. Like that,
and I think this deck
bonkers.
uses it better than most.
I think it uses it the best. Let's be honest.
I didn't want to be the one to say it, but
I mean, it maximizes every single part of that card.
Yeah, like
it actually has a good use for crew.
Yeah, it's
agreed. That's one of those like sneakily insane cards that you would tell most people, "Oh yeah, this card's great," and they'd be like, "Okay, no." But in this deck, it seems bonkers. So, I mean,
yeah.
So you're kind of alluding to why this deck isn't, you have this mid-range shell, and you have these things, but I still have it like, so a lot of people look at me and I'm that guy. I've been that guy for a while now. I'm always like, okay, I get it. The deck could do cool things, but how do you win the game? Like, and right now, what I know about the deck, granted, I know a lot more than I'm putting on here, but
Yeah.
I do know the deck quite well.
It sounds like it's just spinning its wheels, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're just spinning wheels, and realistically, you're not winning. So, but you're top fouring. So, how are you winning? Like, what are you doing to win the game?
So there's a handful of auras that we can find and use. There's things like ethereal armor, all that glitters, an ancestral mask. That these auras that will scale based on how many other enchantments we have, and we're a Selesnya deck, so we have access to some really powerful enchantments that we want to be playing anyway. We have quite a number of enchantments. I don't know the exact count off the top of my head, but we have a lot of enchantments in this deck to grow those big, powerful auras to eventually turn our bear into usually a 2-turn clock on any given player is good enough, but we can often get it up to just a single hit from our commander can kill a player. And you think, well, and it's not just the scaling ones. We have stuff like Moldervine Cloak and Crystal Carapace that give +3/+3, and just a whole bunch of other random auras that'll give power and toughness buffs that allow us to pressure players. And I think you're probably going to be segueing into this next. So it sounds like we just have three. Yeah, it sounds like we just have the three auras that win the game, but and that doesn't sound like enough. But we actually have we have 6, I'd say, because we have 3 aura tutors that are kind of a central point in the deck that a lot of other things revolve around. After we have this card advantage engine, what are we digging for? And usually it's one of these aura tutors, these creatures that can enter the battlefield and search for any aura from our deck.
So hang on.
Yeah.
So hang on. You just kind of like said something that isn't actually normal to this format as a whole, right? Like we are specifically talking about commons, and the most powerful decks in our format, I would argue, can tutor, right? And you just alluded that your deck can tutor, and you're in Selesnya, so you don't play transmute spells. Nope. You're talking about like these little things that can tutor.
We don't get transmute. We don't get merchant scroll. Nope.
Yeah, you don't get any of those things.
Black have all the best tutors.
Exactly, you're tutoring. But I gotta hit you with these horrible statements, man. I have to, and I'm sorry. What, you tutor like what? I mean, how many auras can the deck actually play? And ironically, I have the list up in front of me, and I see that there's 21 auras in this list. Enchantments. 21.
We have 21 enchantments, but not all of them are auras. I believe we have 18 auras.
Fair.
Oh, yes. Still quite high.
Ring.
Yeah.
Oblivion
still
Ring
quite
is
high.
just an enchantment. So is
we've
Journey.
got Oblivion Ring,
got it.
Journey to Nowhere, and Flaming Fist, I believe, are all of our non-aura enchantments.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and I guess the dog. The dog is also not an enchantment.
Oh, yeah. It's I see it here now.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's a hell of an incredible aura package. But
yeah.
Elaborate for us. So you play a Heliod's Pilgrim, tutor once. Okay, sure. That doesn't win you the game. It gets you, sure, ethereal armor. Yeah,
so if Heliod's Pilgrim is obviously the best one. Heliod's Pilgrim costs 3, the other 2 cost 5. But an example of a play pattern is we get to play Heliod's Pilgrim. We find something like an ethereal armor. Then we tap the Heliod's Pilgrim with one of the many mana dorks that I've mentioned to get a creature tapped, and we use that mana to cast the ethereal armor, get in for an attack in the range of 6 to maybe all the way up to 10 potentially, and then end of turn. Now that we tapped that Heliod's Pilgrim with one of our mana dorks, we flicker it with Far Traveler, and now we get to go find a protection spell or an interaction spell to allow us to maintain what we have until we get to untap again, continue pressure, and then flicker the Heliod's Pilgrim again, and continue finding any piece we need. Because we have so many auras that cover such a wide range of bases.
Yeah, and that's interesting that you mentioned interaction pieces with it. So what auras in here can actually interact at like instant speed?
So we have 4 auras that can interact at instant speed. 3 of them are our protection auras. They're Benevolent Blessing, Shamana's Blessing, and Ward of Lights that all effectively do the same thing with some minor differences. They're 2 mana auras that give a creature protection from a color at instant speed. Ward of Lights is unique in that if you use it at instant speed, it'll fall off, which makes it better at putting on your opponent's things, but not quite as good on your own things. But you can still use it sorcery speed to get a permanent protection. And Benevolent Blessing is the opposite end of the spectrum, where normally protection would knock all auras off of a thing. These 3 have stipulations to allow themselves to stay attached if you name white, but Benevolent Blessing allows any of your own auras to stay attached, no matter what color you name.
Oh, nice.
I mean, that's
So we got the
pretty gross. Like,
it is.
Like, I mean, the thing that you said with play it, get one, tap it, get one. And if you could untap and do that again, you're just tutoring literally all the best cards in your deck at that point, right?
Every
if
turn,
I'm not mistaken,
we get a draw and also the best card in our deck. It's
like, that's gross.
Like
that's gross. Okay,
you were wondering how it gets to those top 4s.
Okay,
yeah,
that is
pure consistency.
Best cards in your deck are good.
Gross. Okay, so I gotta pick on you, Franklin, for a minute. I'm gonna pick on the new players. So Franklin has played your deck, Hive, and Franklin, I need to know how you can help assist someone like a newer player, because I'm gonna show you exactly what Franklin did. Franklin goes, "This deck's cool. Play this dork. Play this. Set up my engine." Mold to like 4 or 5, which was awesome.
Deck molds really well.
Play the Heliod's Pilgrim. Went to tutor, picked up the deck, and went, I don't know what to do. Like,
there's 18 auras.
Yeah,
people just run into decision paralysis.
Yeah,
I like that we said at the same time. Yeah, so the joke I kept making with it is that people need a post-it note. Speaking of post-it notes, fortunately, you can watch the video primer that's going to be out on the channel later.
Yes. But what do you have for something like that, Hive? Like, it honestly, it's a bit overwhelming even talking about it.
Yeah, so first thing you want to do anytime you play one of those aura tutors is you want to think about, like, what do you need in the given scenario? Well, what do you need, and, like, are you going to get a flicker of it this turn? Because if you are, you want to think about both cards you're getting. If you are ready to start pressuring the table and going for a win, you're going to play that Helios Pilgrim, and you're going to find one of your Voltron auras. You're going to find Ethereal Armor if you don't have, like, the mana to play one of the other ones, because it's the cheapest, just a single light. You're going to find an Ancestral Mask, usually is the biggest, almost always. It gives +2/+2 for each other enchantment other than itself. Yours or your opponent's, and that scales out of control insanely fast, but it costs 3. And then in the middle is the Albic Glitters that gives +1/+1 for each enchantment and artifact you control. So we have a handful of incidental artifacts that can add
it looks like you have about 7 or so.
Yeah, so we have 3 artifact lands to help with that count and stuff like that, just for the random value we get out of it. So if you want to start pressuring the table, you're going to find one of those. Whichever one.
Yeah, or worst comes to worst, you flicker your inspectors and make more clues.
Yeah.
Oh,
exactly.
That's really interesting. Actually, hang on. Let's kind of work on that. Flicker your inspectors. So, like the Thraben inspectors and stuff like that. Is that like a viable play pattern that you do with the deck like this?
So, ideally, we'd be flickering one of our creatures that actually draws when it enters. Obviously, that's the best. But really, we take what we can get. We want to play the inspectors anyway. They're really cheap. They redraw.
But what if you have all that glitters, right? Would you think that that's like something you're like kind of okay with doing to just build your count? Is that like something considerable?
Generally, I wouldn't do it just for the all glitters count, because if I'm flickering a creature, I want to be doing it to get the cards. And if I want the cards from my inspector, I got to sacrifice that artifact anyway.
That's super fair.
Yeah, fair.
Okay. So
if you want pressure, you're going to find one of those 3 cards. But there's other things you can find.
So keeping on the premise of why this deck, you said some actually like bonkers things. You're kind of like boosh, my like brain's kind of like melting because there's a lot to intake here. But
There's a lot of moving parts.
it is a lot of moving parts. I'm really happy that other video is coming out to simplify a lot of these things.
Yeah.
You said a lot of like really cool things being more on like the proactive side of the deck, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you're sitting at a table, and I'm just going to give you random scenarios, and
Yeah.
you're sitting at a table with like a Gretchen, a Malcolm, and a Weaver. And the first thing that comes to my brain after you just said that is Ancestral Mask, one shot a player off the table, right? Each one has 4 enchantments. You just one shot a player. That seems hilarious. But it seems like your deck has, in fact, I haven't done the count, but I'm sitting here looking at it, and you have a metric ton of interaction. We don't have to like pick and choose like how much you truly have, but
Yeah.
I
categorize it, I think I have 17.
Mhm.
By-
Well,
by
I got
my
to
own
pick on you with this
categories.
one. You have a lot of spells, which I'm the biggest fan of, that are, and I would love for you to elaborate on this one. Almost damn near all the cards that I look at initially, just as soon as I hit your instance, are multi-purposeful. So
Mhm.
everything does more than one thing, and I really love your elaboration on that.
Like our auras and things, we can tutor what we need, but when it comes to our other interaction pieces, we have to make do with whatever we draw. Our card advantage engine is random. It's card draw. So we gotta make sure that whatever we draw will be useful in any given scenario. So our protection spells are multi-purpose. Like we've got our Stave Off and our Vines of Astwood that can protect ourselves or interrupt our opponents. We have something like Thraben Charm, which is a fantastic card that we just got recently that has 3 very relevant modes to kill a creature, kill an enchantment, or nuke all graveyards.
Card's gross.
It is. We've got something like Ram Through, which can be early. It can just be a kill spell, because most creatures you care about killing early on, threatening combo and things, are going to have 2 toughness or less. You could just use your base commander.
Yeah, and Hive, there's something I realized we did not go through.
Huh.
And I want to ask Gator this question. Gator, do you know the text on Wilson without looking it up?
Without looking at it?
Do you know the keywords on Wilson?
Don't look it up. Line for line. What's it say?
Line for line. I can't recite it perfectly. But I know everything that it says, yes.
Not line for line, but...
I could.
Do I know what it says? Yes.
Go
okay. We're questioning me. Got it.
Yeah, we're questioning you.
Obviously, I know what it says.
I know, too, because I've
been taught.
I hit every single one of them.
Okay, let's see if I can do it. Here we go. War 2, Vigilance, Reach, Trample, can't be countered.
Mm-hmm.
War 2, Vigilance, Reach, can't be countered. I feel like I'm missing something. Trample.
Yeah,
there's
you're missing.
There's Reach, there's the one you don't think about.
Countered.
Yeah, which is Trample, the whole reason why we're here.
Vigilance, Reach, Trample, can't be countered. Vigilance, Reach, Trample. What am I missing there? It's 4, and I'm missing.
Choose a background.
Choose a background.
Oh, that's
choose a background is the last. Yeah, exactly. That's the last line of text.
But yeah, that
did I get it right?
Those 3 keywords is bonkers. Yeah,
people always forget
reach. The reach is the one that fucks
people always forget the reach.
Yeah,
the Ward 2 just shuts people out of interacting with it for the first couple turns.
Beautiful.
Can't be countered.
I think the can't be countered is the bonkers. Yeah, I think that's what sets this deck aside, because the blue players, you will develop your engine. This is not the deck that they're like, let's be realistic. If you're playing in a blue pod and you cast Far Traveler, seriously, their hand has to be shit for them to counter that. Because they're like...
I know exactly one player that'll do it. And that's all.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Interesting. I would not. I may in very specific situations, but doesn't seem like something I would do. But jumping back, I screw you guys, pick it on me. I'm gonna pick on you, Franklin.
Go for it.
Point my pencil at you. So here's one Abdel player. Flicker of Fate. This is like one of your favorite cards. I would love for you to elaborate why you think this card is good, Franklin. And I want to see if Hive does the same thing, because let me give a little bit of spoilers here. And we said it earlier. Hive has Oblivion Ring, Chains of Custody, and Journey to Nowhere, not including the vast majority of other auras that you're able to do shenanigans with a card like Flicker of Fate. What are your thoughts on a card like that, Franklin? Because I know you're Abdel.deck, and I've seen you do O-ring shenanigans with it. So
with Hive's current list for Wilson, there's actually not that many Flicker spells, but the main thing for Flicker Fate that makes it super amazing is it hits any creature on board, and it hits any enchantment on board. Not just your own, you can hit your opponent's stuff too. And so with all of the different auras that are in this deck too, you can flicker the aura, and when it re-enters, it doesn't target. So you can get around Hexproof, get around Ward, get around a whole bunch of other stuff. Not only that, you're able to cast Oblivion Ring on the ETB trigger, flicker it, so you remove two things. So technically, the first one gets removed. It doesn't come back because the leave trigger never happened, and then you get to exile another thing.
Mm-hmm.
The card's insane. It gives you a whole bunch of 2-for-1 abilities on it.
I mean, do you actually use it like that, Hive, or is it just here to? I don't know. How do you use it? Is that like?
So I do all of those things. So
Okay.
It's here.
Good.
So it's here as a modal spell. I've used it to flicker a Dargo that's coming at me, because flicker it's not attacking anymore. I've used it to as like almost sort of a stave off sort of effect, where you flicker the target of like a combo piece. Like if someone tries to trickery charm their pinger in a Malcolm Red deck, and you flicker the pinger, now their trickery charm has no target. I've used it specifically, I believe, against Kunx when he's on Abdel to play O-Ring, hold priority with the ETB, flicker O-Ring. And
nice.
I've used and it's a flicker spell, so I can also just use it to flicker my Aura Tutor.
That's gross.
It's
you
not
could do
just
that. Wait, you could do that 3 times in one turn, right?
If
you have that card, could you do it
if you have a
3
flicker,
times in one
so
turn?
If you have a flicker, you can go Helios Pilgrim, Ephemerate, flicker with Far Traveler, upkeep Ephemerate. It's
gross.
It's gross.
That's gross.
The Aura Tutors are fantastic.
Wow.
And O-Ring isn't the only enchantment that is relevant to Flicker with Flicker of Fate, because I mentioned that we played 3 of those protection auras.
Mm-hmm.
Being able to flicker those is also massive, because you can put it on an opponent's thing, interrupt whatever they're doing, and then Flicker of Fate it to, now that it's done its thing over there, you can Flicker of Fate it and get it back on your own commander. So now it's done double duty. It's interrupted their combo, and now it's giving your commander protection. Or it could already be on your commander. You could flicker it to just change the color you named with it.
That's gross. Yeah, that's very, very good.
Yeah,
So,
again, just being able to reset auras with Flicker Fate is crazy. That and you can use it to combat other Wilsons, because again, when auras ETB after being exiled and it's not cast, they don't have to target anything. They just appear onto the battlefield.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, that's kind of crazy though. Like, one card in your deck. So I know I made the comparison earlier to Abdel Blue, right? Like Abdel Blue was just able to like raw card draw 10 cards, right? And you're like telling me how you could draw 1 extra card a turn, which is very unimpressive. But now, kind of getting into the deck, you're looking at a card like Flicker of Fate that actually does like 15 things.
So many things.
I mean, it could hit a thing, back, exile a thing, stop a combo, eat your thing, get you more thing to get extra thing. And like, if I keep going, I'm gonna like forget everything about everything. It's just holy crap. That seems insane, to say the least. But I gotta ask you this: the package seems insane. Like the fact that your interaction is also protection, and your protection is also interaction, and your interaction is also tutoring to get more of the interaction. That's a hell of an engine, and it's one reason why I believe that you're here is the fact that tell me if I'm wrong. Your deck is such a compact built motor. Like I'm gonna hit you with like some old school. It's gonna show my age right now. You're like a 350 small block Chevrolet motor. I don't know if you know what that is, but it's one.
Sorry to say,
it's one of the strongest motors on planet Earth, man. That motor, it's a 350 small block. You can throw a freaking piece of TNT down one of the freaking holes and blow it, and that thing is going to get you to the end of the finish line. And honestly, that's what your deck sounds like to me. It's just so strong and so redundant. Everything does what everything else is doing, and it seems insane to me. But
yeah, I've really made an effort to try and make things as redundant as possible. There's going to be multiple pieces of anything you need in the deck, specifically so that it can mulligan extremely effectively. Because of the engine, because you only need like 1 to 2 cards to establish the engine to get card advantage for the rest of the game, the deck can mulligan extremely well. It can dig itself out extremely consistently.
Very fair. Yeah, mulliganing is a very big factor in competitive play. So being able to mulligan.
That's what I love about this deck. You can mulligan to low numbers because, again, you have such great card quality in here.
Yeah, that's actually a really key point that I didn't actually think about saying. The card quality in here is actually amazing. I mean, one of the last questions I have for you about why this deck, Hive, and I don't want to spoil it, but like if I'm a burn style deck strategy, like trying to just chip and poke you and prod you, can you stop me? Like, are you playing life game by any chance, or like how are you preventing that?
So I've got a number of pieces. I've got first 2 auras, because the auras are everything you want can be found on an aura. So we've got Armadillo Cloak, which is the big one. You put that on your commander, and now you just on its own you hit for 4. You hit someone for 4. That's a 4-turn clock, and you're getting 4 off of it every turn. But it scales with your other auras. As your commander gets bigger, you're going to be gaining more life off that. And then there's Spirit Link, which is a more recent change that I've swapped to over a Soul Sister to be able to more better adapt to the growing number of pingers you've been seeing lately in the meta. Because Spirit Link, you can put it on an opponent's pinger, and now anytime that does damage, your opponents are taking damage, but you just gained 2 life. So now whenever that TPI deck, for example, plays an instant or sorcery, your opponents are taking damage and you're gaining life. So we've got those auras, and then I mentioned it already, but there's 1 Soul Sister left in the deck. The other ones have been trimmed for other things, but there's still a Soul Warden left in there to just get some consistent life off your flickerings and just your opponents playing the game.
Yeah, that's what I like about Spirit Link, that sure, it's life gain, but you just use it to stop your opponents from doing anything. Or, like, God forbid, really there's a Sir Conrad against you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You throw that on a Sir Conrad. So, Sir Conrad's a little riskier because they sometimes have sack outlets and things.
No, but you force them to sack it.
Yeah, it's even if they sack it, that's a good thing. But if they can't sack it, now every time anything is dying, your opponents are going to 0 and you're going all the way to the moon.
Let me ask you this, Hive. I think this is going to be our wrap up here, because like that's honestly, that was very intense. Like you actually have a solution to literally everything, which I think is insane.
We didn't even get to half of them. There's so many.
There is so many. I think
like the funniest solution to Malcolm is just make sure they forget that it has reach.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a little bear. He's sitting on the ground.
We're not talking about
reach.
your games, bro. We're not talking about you making that mistake a good time. But let me ask
It
you
happens
these,
to everyone, bro.
let me ask you these couple last questions. So this is kind of a two-parter because they're intertwined. Do you believe that the deck is solved? But with that said, could you upgrade cards, or that's it? It's done.
So, like I said, I've been playing and tuning this deck for a year now. I do believe this deck is solved. I have played so many games with this deck. I've played in so many events with this deck to try and solve it. And I think recently, really in the past like 6 months, there's been very few changes to the deck. There's been like meta calls and things like that. Like I mentioned, I swapped a Soul Sister for a Spirit Link. That was just in response to more pingers showing up. It was a lateral change, just a meta call. That's mostly the changes that are happening to the deck now. Like the deck can get better, especially as new cards come out, but I don't think any of the core of the deck is going to be changed. Like we might get a better draw creature, but it'll just be one for another. We got Thraben Charm, and it just replaced a different interaction spell. Like the counts are remaining the same, and the deck is in a good place.
Can I ask you, like, this is kind of a bad question because I know this is not a thing that a lot of people really like to ask, but we had a recent episode on here with Islane about Sivirus, and Islane actually had the same exact style of thought process. He was like, no, my Sivirus deck is solved. And I asked him the same question. I was like, well, do you find that to be a problem? Because a lot of people do believe that, once a deck is solved, it's kind of like it's solved.
No room to grow.
No room to grow, but I don't really believe that with the way the format is, and neither did Islane. And, do you feel now that the deck is solved, it's just kind of like, well, get rid of it, or you still have flex slots, or yeah, hit me with it.
So there's always flex slots, right? I mean, if you want to pick up this deck and you feel like the removal or the interaction is too inflexible, then you can put in more flexible pieces of interaction. It's going to be more expensive, but if that suits your playstyle, then do it. But I would urge you to just swap one for one. Swap a piece of interaction for another piece of interaction. Don't mess with the core of the deck. That's what I think of when I think the deck is solved. If you want more Soul Sisters back, go ahead. You can swap out some of the random pieces. You can swap out a Spirit Link for a Soul Sister again, stuff like that. But as for whether I think it sounds like what you were getting at is if the deck is solved, why play it anymore? But
a little bit, but yes.
Something I really enjoy about this deck is the decision trees, because of the Aura Tutors and how the deck asks you constantly to pay attention to the game state and all of these things and be constantly thinking about what you can do next, that I find it really rewarding to play. So even after maybe the deck building is solved, and I still find playing it very rewarding and keeping an eye on the meta, seeing what meta calls I want to make. Again, I keep coming back to the Spirit Link because that was one of the more recent. That was the most recent change that was not just putting in a new card.
Yeah, Spirit Link has been around for literally ever.
But I know
that's a great example.
Yeah, because I know Thraben Charm's a very recent inclusion within the last 90 days or so.
Yeah, so
well, what did you? Hang on. To be fair, my apologies for interrupting, but let's do a little comparison because you did say lateral changes. So, what did you actually replace Thraben Charm with? Was it a true lateral change, or was it like a Sunlace or something ridiculous?
So, when I put Thraben Charm in the deck, I wanted to swap a removal spell for it. So, What I ended up settling on was I took out Return to Nature to put in Thraven Charm, because they do very similar things. They're both modal spells. Return to Nature can exile target card from a graveyard. It can destroy an artifact, or it can destroy an enchantment. And Thraben Charm can exile any number of graveyards you want, so it can already accomplish the same thing Return to Nature does there. It can exile target enchantment, so it can already do the same thing as Return to Nature there. And it can do damage equal to twice the number of creatures you control to target creature. So it can do something more than what Return to Nature can do. It can kill a thing. The only thing we lost was the ability to destroy an artifact, but in my experience of this format, there's very few artifacts that you need to care about. There's like the Retriever combos, but those combos go through the graveyard, so you can mess with them as well.
Yeah, fair.
Yep.
It really felt like a strict upgrade. It did everything that I wanted Return to Nature for, and more.
But better. Well, I mean, dude, like this deck is sweet. Like, I don't know, some of my closing thoughts on a Hive. Tell me if you disagree with me. So I personally play this deck. In fact, here, let me show you guys. I've been the questionnaire, but I have the deck right here in paper, fully sleeved up. I actually play it quite a bit here locally myself, and deck is gas. The deck is so good. I'm mulligan to 4 and win games. I love the deck. Deck is absolutely fantastic. I built my own version. I'm like 3 cards away from Hive's current build. It's just literally what Hive said is you switch a removal spell for a more removal spell that fits your meta. That's exactly what I did. I did not touch the deck at all on my original build. I built Hive's exact list and played it as is because I didn't want to mess up the deck. And I did take their advice. So I would highly recommend you take their advice with this one as well. Give the deck a play in its exact 100 and adjust it to your basic meta is my personal recommendation. But honestly, my real recommendation is pick up this deck. This deck is insane. But with that said, do you have anything closing Hive? And then you as well, Franklin. What do you got? What do you guys got for us?
I mean, yeah, it's really just going to parrot what you said. Play the deck. It's so much fun. It's a ton of fun. If you like building an engine, if you like mid-range decks, this is the best deck I've found for that. It's a ton of fun. If you do want to pick it up, read the deck list. Check out what you can be finding. Look at your auras. Understand what they each do. Because some of them can be a bit complex, like
temporal isolation.
Temporal isolation. I didn't know if at this stage you wanted to go into a specific card, but
you could. It's okay. We don't mind.
Temporal isolation is one that is misinterpreted so often. There was a category of auras that I didn't necessarily get into. I didn't get the chance to get into very much, but it was our 3 interaction auras, our 3 removal auras. Temporal isolation is one of them. It's the only one with flash. And what it does is it gives a creature shadow and prevents all damage it does. Notably, it doesn't prevent combat damage. It prevents all damage. So you can use it at instant speed to shut down pinger combos, to shut down a Dargo after it hits someone else with a Ketis trigger on the stack. It is really versatile once you realize it doesn't say combat damage.
Yeah. It's gross. I completely agree. Franklin?
I've lost it before. I was like, oh, Reckless Fireweaver, cool. And then I was like, temporal isolation? I was like, no.
Oh, man.
It's a pirate. Good for you.
Yeah. Congratulations. The saddest of days. But with that said, Franklin, any closing thoughts or take us home?
I have one final question for Hive. Hive, where can people find you?
Yes. I'm on Discord. If you ping me in pretty much, I think all of the PDH Discord servers, you can probably grab me. I'm most active talking in the PDH Pod Discord, but I'm around. I have a deck list posted here in the Common Theories Discord. I'm not really in the home base much, but I'm there, and if you ping me, I'll probably respond. It's really just Discord. So
no Twitter, nothing, any of that?
Not really. It's just...
You're a terrible Zoomer, bro.
Yeah, I'm awful at, all of that stuff. But if you want to talk to me, find me on Discord.
But if you're suffering from brain rot scrolling on TikTok, we're there. So follow us on TikTok. We're over on Twitter. Join our Discord server. The link is down below. Help support us over on Patreon. Because, as I alluded to earlier, we are making deck tech series and video primers for all the decks that we'll be talking about on the channel with help from our guests. And if you've been here this long, hit subscribe. Hit the little bell icon so you get notified whenever our videos go live. We have the RSS feed that's up and running. And with that, Hive, thank you so much. I appreciate all the work you've done for us, getting the video primer up and ready, and joining us here today.
Yeah, it's been fun. I can never miss a chance to talk about this deck. I love this thing.
Thank you so much, Hive.
Yeah, with that, everyone, thank you, everyone. Have a great week. Shout out to all of our patrons: Eric, Aaron, Dax, Devin, NYC Burrito, Little Red Lotad, Frank, Scoob, HZ, and William. Thank you for all of your support.